Hello, one and all. This is Professor Hamamoto. It is April 21st, year 2022, 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Welcome, one and all. Now, just a warning, I'm not going to be going through a lot of the well known smut and gossip about Javanka, which, of course, is a conflation of the names Jared and Ivanka. You already know this, and it's a distraction. It was a distraction back when it was coming out. It's even more of a distraction now. Not that I don't indulge in it myself. There's no one that enjoys gossip and smut more than myself. I read this material incessantly. I really enjoy political biography, as you know, political biographies, celebrity biographies, autobiographies. I just eat them like bonbons. I just enjoy them. But I also have another motive in engaging that world, and that is because I'll state it again. I believe that, and it's been shown, it's been demonstrated time and time again, that this type of information is really important to our survival, not just political economic survival, but survival as a species. And I'll give you a really quick example here before I go on. But let's say someone like a Jared Kushner, who is clueless so far as anything that's outside of his immediate realm of privilege. And I'm not going to belabor that point. We all know they're a couple spoiled rich kids, right? And the word today is entitled, right? We already know that. But what really matters is that if people like Jared Kushner get involved in geopolitical affairs, such as in the Middle East, and this is what I learned from reading this book, which I'll talk about in a moment. It has its own agenda as well. It's a British intelligence agenda, I'll tell you ahead of time. But I'm learning beyond the gossip, the real important threat that the Javanka phenomenon represents, and why, if Donald J. Trump decides to run for the president of the United States again, and I discourage him from doing so, but if he decides to, he has to leave Javanka behind, right? Even if that means alienating his daughter, Ivanka, the apple of his eye, and maybe more. I'm not going to go any further than that. This book covers it. Some of the creepy father and daughter interaction, let's say, that has incestuous overtones. And for those of you who've been watching this channel, you know that's a recurrent theme, and I didn't make it up. I'm just reading fiction like V.C. Andrews, and I'm reading bios, and that seems to be a recurrent feature of amongst the elite. I'm sure for the everyday people, sure, it's I won't say it's prevalent, but it does exist. There's lots of, by the way, academic literature on father, daughter, brother, sister incest. Believe me, I've been researching it because I hope to write about it in extended fashion, trying to put into some sort of sense this father-daughter relationship of Ivanka Trump and Donald J. Trump, which is inherently interesting, but more importantly, it's dangerous to the republic. It's dangerous to the world, perhaps. Right? I mean, if the shooting war gets going good, like we're seeing the escalation in Russia and Ukraine, then these sort of gossipy type bits of information take on a very serious cast. And again, there's no one more than myself who enjoys the fun aspects of TMZ, Harvey Levin, and reading the smut. And I admit I don't follow the Kardashian family. They're kind of out anyway. I was kind of checking out their relationship to basketball play. They seem to be targeting high-profile black athletes and cutting them down. Maybe that's part of their intelligence function as honey traps, right, to NBA stars who wind up taking a fall, right? That's another talk, and I'm not even going to go talk about the Kardashians because everybody thinks they know everything that there is to know about them. Just like everybody thinks they know everything there is to know about Javanka. And that's why I put the key term in there, sabotage. When I say sabotage, I mean sabotage. And the word comes from the French term for the wooden shoe that the workers in the early industrial period in France, they wore these and they were being displaced because of the machinery and automation. Sound familiar? Well, we're being replaced by AI, robotics, and expert systems, which Jared Kushner is pushing very heavily, by the way, even though he pretends to be a man of the people. But anyway, these wooden shoes were called sabots, right? So what they would do, the workers, is take their wooden shoe and throw them in the machinery so that it would come to a grinding halt, hence sabotage. And this is what Jared Kushner was up to throughout the entire 4 year run of Team Trump, President Donald J. Trump. He wasn't controlling Ivanka Trump, which gave Jared Trump, well, you know this already, but I'll get into some details here, right? So, but I just wanted to establish the non trivial aspect of this particular talk. And it's also a premonitory warning against this happening again. Now, there could be a Trump run for the White House, and I don't think it should be Donald J. Trump. I'll tell you, I think it should be Donald Jr. Now, that's a person there that I would support. I would not support Donald J. Trump's return to the White House. I'm saying this from the perspective of a person who voted for him the first time and the second time, the surprise election, and number two, the stolen election. And that's a related issue. I'm not going to talk about how it was stolen and how he's going to make a return once all the shenanigans have been revealed. I don't think that's going to happen realistically, and it's really irrelevant anyway, because what we've as a public have come to understand is that the electoral political system not only is corrupt, it's really irrelevant when we're talking about real power, how it enacts itself, how it plays out. And that's why this talk is important, because we see one family, the Kushners, playing a huge role in the life ways, the solidity of the American Republic. One family, right? The Kushners. And Jared's just a tool of his father, Charlie, and Charlie was a tool of his immigrant parents too, right? And we'll get into Charlie Kushner himself, right? You think you know about him. You think you know he was in a jailbird and blah, 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 woof, woof. But it goes much, much deeper than that. Again, it goes into the whole geopolitical system that is starting to blow up. No hype here at any moment. And again, it's because I'm thinking about Russia and Ukraine, how quickly a situation like that can escalate. And again, there's another example of how the not just mainstream news, but the Ben Shapiro slash Don Bongino or Dan Bongino and Stu Webb type, supposedly the replacements, the new conservative media, they're also playing a role and say, oh yeah, Kolomoisky or whoever, he's a clown, he's an idiot, he dresses in women's clothes. And so again, it gets down to personalities over and over again, and we get locked into that mindset. There are some good signs on the horizon, though, that we're beginning to break out of the spell cast by the personality, celebrity-driven culture, and we know that Netflix is falling on hard times. They're either going to restructure and just forget the streaming, forget the DVDs. They're just going to go with the Robin Williams style neural implants, right? That's going to take us to the last stage of entertainment. We'll just be sitting there and having all these individual and group hallucinations instead of Netflix. That might be the next phase. But anyway, let me get back on topic here. Oh yeah, I should say the obvious. All this is prelude to one of the most important warnings that I'll give you today, and that is Javanka plan a return to the White House. They're already sending out feelers. And that's one of the reasons why they were always playing a nice with the tech left in Pentagon Valley. We know it as Silicon Valley, but it's really a DARPA. It's a Pentagon slash United Nations slash NATO operation. We're being occupied by foreign forces. It's called the United Nations and NATO. That's why they're always playing footsies with all the tech celebrities over there, right? They know that that's really what's going to scam them back into the White House. All they have to do is promise their buddies over in the finance community everything the world, and they're going to deliver on it. They've shown themselves to be very effective in delivering the goods, what they promise. Oh, no, I say they. I include Ivanka Trump and Jared Trump. So here was the original. It was a very simple formula, and we can attribute it to. First of all, let me give some credit to Vicky Ward, who where I get most of this information. Kushner Incorporated, Greed, Ambition, Corruption, published 2019, St. Martin's Press, a major trade publisher, mass market publisher, major, okay. And they themselves are brokering perceptions and deals. So I thought, excuse me a second while I wet my whistle. I thought the very concept of the book was engaging, looking at this power couple. I don't know of any presidential daughter or son or inner circle family member who has had such an impact on the office of the presidency. I can't remember. And I know that these are times where reality television has even poisoned the high office of the US Congress. The judiciary seems to be kind of escaping some of it, but any day now there's going to be a Supreme Court justice who's going to start hamming it up on some reality show. But we've seen that happen in even in the case of the US presidency, right? We know that's happened. And it's not sacrosanct, and it is a ceremonial office uh, for now. Hopefully, we can return it to the gravitas it once enjoyed, as recently as Reagan, before he was put out of action with an assassination attempt, which was orchestrated amongst his inner circle as well. That's what we're dealing with. We know about John F. Kennedy. That's probably the last attempt that there was at making the offices of the presidency really matter so far as domestic and international politics are concerned. So this is a threat. This is a credible threat that we want to circumvent. And that's what we're talking here. And this is why I picked up the book by Vicky Ward, because it's always been my contention that rather than just taking sort of a candy ass moralistic approach to political problems, like, oh, if only people were more nice to each other, and why can't we just be honest? Let's go back to the 1950s where men were men and women were women and children were that's all nice, but we're in 2022 and we live in the flesh and blood world of fallen people. That includes you and me too. Nobody's perfect. Some are better than others, but none of us are immune from these temptations. What would you do? I mean, Scaramucci, is that his name? All these guys who came flocking to the Trump White House. Most of these people come from lower middle class, sometimes even working. Gary Cohen, his parents, I think, were immigrants, and he rose to the top of the law profession, and then he was ousted. They all at one point or another were kicked out of the inner circle. Most often, if Vicky Ward has this correct, most often due to the machinations of Jared Kushner, or more likely Ivanka Trump. Oh man, she is an expert game player, right? I don't know what your working experience is, but if you've worked in an office setting, institutional setting, there are people in that office who are always scheming. They're always manipulating. And I didn't like it when I first started my work career. I thought, oh my gosh, why don't they just do work? Why don't they just get down to what they've been hired to do? They spend most of their time trying to figure out how to get over on other people instead of doing anything creative. But then the longer I moved into my professional career, the more it came apparent to me that those are the people that get ahead in the institution. And that's true in society, and it's true in White House politics. It's the schemers, not the dreamers, like you and me, who get ahead. So I decided at an early juncture, this is decades ago, that hey, if this is the way the world really works, It's just, this is all tried and true. It's cross-cultural truth. You don't have to just stay with Niccolo Machiavelli. It's the same in China or in Southern Africa. You name the society that has more than 3 or 4 or 5 people in it, and they're scheming against each other. Someone wants to be the top dog. They want to be the chief. They want to be the president. They want to be the CEO, even if it doesn't pay anything. I was in an institution where even if you're the top dog, you don't really make, unless you're the chancellor. We had a chancellor there's pulling down $750,000 base salary plus free house and cars and everything else that she could negotiate, right? But even she was kicked out eventually, and she was kicked out thanks to techniques that I personally learned from books like this about bios. Right, I have personal experience with this, and that is gossip and intelligence is a probably the most important weapon that the little people have. Okay, I'm not going to take credit for dethroning Linda P.B. Katehi, one of the most corrupt chancellors in University of California history. But through my application of my Yojimbo strategy, and this is an influence of a film Kurosawa, it's Japanese, right? Japanese classic film about how this one guy who's hired he's an unemployed samurai. They're called Ronin, right? Not the Frank Miller, Quentin Tarantino knockoffs, all that garbage, but they're real, historical Ronin. And these two warring factions he hires himself to not one but both of them. He's playing both sides against the middle, and he gets them to destroy each other, and then he gets away free. He doesn't even want any money. He just wants justice. He wants the peasants to live a happy, productive life free from thuggery. Okay, so as a child, because my parents used to take me to these Japanese films in Los Angeles, the Toho La Brea, long before it became a Korean American church. This is when there was still a Japanese American community in Los Angeles. So I was learning. I wasn't initiated into the adult world, but these lessons stuck with me. So that's why I think books like this are important, because gossip and intrigue and intelligence is the weapon of the powerless people. And believe me, it's very, very effective. And again, I don't want to talk about myself too much because I'm going to go into some announcements in a moment. But my most effective strategy was to cultivate staff. Right. Everybody here, including Charlie Kushner and all the other bigwigs, their staff people hated them. That's why they didn't hesitate, right? Undistributed, of course, they're all anonymous. They didn't hesitate to talk to Vicky Ward and just really dish the dirt on the people that treated them like dirt and disregarded them, didn't acknowledge their existence in the office, right? So I am a little person. I know how these officious, self-important people behave towards us lesser beings. So whenever I got into a position of vulnerability, the further I rise in the hierarchy, I made sure that I stayed in touch with my base, and that was the staff people. So all the management services, they always got a box of candy for me Christmas time. And I was made sure to say hello to everybody in the office, and they supported me. They couldn't take me down because my foundation was solid. Sorry to talk about myself so much, but I'm just saying that we could use these practical lessons to avert people like Javanka from taking over our republic, which is built on our sweat and blood and our sacrifices, sometimes in the case of our health and even our lives and our livelihoods, right? It's not just philosophic or romantic musings on here. These people are a threat to us, and we got to prevent that from happening. And if they ever do get to that place, we're not helpless. We don't have to say, please, Mike, the Fear Ranger, tell us about your geopolitical insights, right? Or Alex Jones, or whoever else, blaming the Chacoms, right? As it turns out, the Chacoms play a very small role in Javanka. If there's any group there, and it's not even the Israelis, okay? If there's any group you got to watch out for, man, it's the ones in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, places like that. We know about Saudi and all that. but that whole region there that's got tons of money, and they got all the I don't know when I say all, I mean all, even the high profile mockers like Charlie Cushing. They got him over a barrel, man. They got him over a barrel with his pants pulled down. They can bugger him anytime they want to because he owes them. He owes them money. We'll get into that in a moment. So that's funny. We never talk about the Arab world investment. It's always the Chakam. Why is that? Well, hey, maybe the Arab world, these people, they have a lot of media properties, and it's a very important point of control, as we'll get to in a moment. In fact, I'll go into it right now, because here's the formula that was devised for Charlie Kushner. Charlie, good time Charlie Kushner, who, by the way, was bisexual on down low. And I'm telling you this ahead of time because it fits into the formula of power, right? People have huge mommy complex. I think Freud had some sort of deep insight about the Austrian bourgeoisie. They had some kind of mommy complex. So Charlie Kushner had the same thing. And I think Jared Kushner had the same problem there. And that's one of the reasons why these particular power blocks are funding GLBTQ, because they want to legitimize this incestuous, mommy fixated, incestuous power system, which always fails. All the civilizations of the past that we read about that have fallen into ruin, they were brought down by buggery and bastardy and incest and just the internal moral and corrupt rot. And the Orthodox Jewish community, not just in the U.S., but in Europe, Eastern Europe, where the Kushners originally came from, they know this. That's why that was part of. That's why they call it orthodoxy, because you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be. You marry a woman, that's your wife, for better or worse, sickness and health, and then you got kids, and then you're supposed to procreate and extend the bloodline. You're not supposed to be going from New Jersey, taking your private automobile or your chauffeur and going under a pseudonym and going over the bridge from Jersey to Manhattan to have sex with rough trade boys. That's Charlie Kushner. He was doing that. And he was an Orthodox Jew. He used to parade the fact that he was such a devout family man, everything for Israel, everything for Orthodox Judaism. But here he was spilling his seed in corrupt Manhattan. There you go. But this talk's not about hypocrisy. We're only human, all right? Charlie Kushner, I'm passing no judgment on him or anybody else who does it. However, if it affects the larger community, and that's why all the different religions have these moral prescriptions, right? They have them for a purpose, because historically they found out that the violation or these certain behaviors will take down the tribe, the nation, the larger diasporic community, right? This is done not because they wanted to exert some sort of theoretical power over the people and make them neurotic and whatever other explanation. The wise men, and they were men, right? The wise men just studied history, and they just looked around and they said, why did Babylon go down the tubes? What happened? How come no one talks about Sumeria anymore and how great it is vacationing there? Well, because, the story already. So they put in these moral prescriptions for a purpose, for survival purpose. Just think about it. And believe me, like you, I chafe at them. Sometimes I don't understand the rationale for all these proscriptions that are detailed. Just it's like, you have to be a Talmudic scholar in order to decode the implications of hey, it's job security for rabbis, so I guess it's okay, right? But anyway, the formula that was developed for Charlie Kushner by Howard Rubinstein was A, buy a trophy building in Manhattan. Remember, he's New Jersey, Charlie Kushner, just like Trump was from Queens, I think. Right, his dad was, and they always, they want to get over into Manhattan. That's where the action is. That's where the glamour is. So you know the story, and again, don't be distracted thinking you know everything there is to know about 666 Park Avenue. Yes, I said it. All right, but I'm not going to dwell on it like some person on InfoWars is, oh, yeah, let me let you in on a secret. Did you know that Jared Kushner bought a property called 666 Park Avenue? All right, come on. Come on now. So, anyway, Charlie Kushner did buy the Park Avenue property, right? That's the high rent district, in case you didn't know it, right? It's a marquee property. It's a trophy building, and immediately, of course, you're going to put yourself on the map, social map, the political map. People are going to sit up and notice, and that's why the Trump, Donald Trump, had to go into Manhattan to begin his move to the top, right? For me, I don't know. I'll probably wind up with a hot dog stand in Sacramento, or at the best, a taco wagon, food truck in San Jose, California. But anyway, these people aspire to own the trophy buildings. Trump, whoever, he's a real estate manager, and they achieve that. But Charlie Kushner went into huge debt in doing so. But that's okay, because Charlie Kushner had a saying. He said, "Debt is my friend," right? Because you may owe the money, but the people that you borrow from are really in your control. That's not in the book. That's what I'm inferring. In other words, if you can't come up with the money, so sue me. What are you going to do? Throw me? There's no debtor's prison in America, right? So he had them on the hook just as he was on the hook. And don't feel sorry for Charlie Kushner, who is always poor mouthing. You know what poor mouthing is? It's like, oh, I'm poor. I can't wrestle none. I have a cash flow problem. That's poor mouthing. You have friends like that. They're rolling in dough, but they're always talking about how they need more, 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 and more. That's poor mouthing. So he's always poor mouthing his situation, but they made out well at the end. I'll just spoiler alert, man. They did very well on that property. So don't feel sorry for him now or then, right? As if we care. Why should we even care about his plight anyway? Okay, so that's strategy number one for Charlie Kushner by Howard Rubenstein, who was a public relations consultant for real estate. I mean, the real estate game is so important and big. He can specialize in real estate PR because it's all about perceptions, right? You know about Bernays and all that. That's a wing of public relations, right? Perception is everything. Perception and access to certain people, certain circles, networking, right? Perception. So he got that down. Check that box off. Second box, buy a national media property. And you know how that works, right? It shapes perceptions. I don't have to really belabor the point with you. You know that. We can see this happening in any number of family dynasties, like the Meyer family, right? Eugene Meyer, the person who bought a lowly cheapo rag called the Washington Post, right? And now it's a internationally respected news organ. Now, leave aside the fact that most of it's PR, right? But it does have sway, and there are good writers with Washington Post, just as there are with Vanity Fair and all the other publications that I'm going to dump on during the course of this talk. The individual journalists, some are really good, and I read them. Okay, just like I read the gossip and watch TMZ and see who's up and down. I will read these publications. That's my job. I enjoy. I derive a great satisfaction. It's in German. It's called Schadenfreude, right? Seeing how the mighty fall, right? You get some kind of a thrill out of it. And you also kind of see people seemingly come out of nowhere and following their, charting their rise and trying to figure out where they're coming from, right? So anyway, they bought the national media property. I'm going to say that's the Kushner companies. And it's called the New York Observer. And just very briefly here, what that means, right? According to Vicky Ward, says the social benefit of becoming the owner of such a venerated paper was almost instantaneous. The Observer may have been a money-losing, salmon-colored broadsheet, but it was read each week by the city's political, cultural, and business elite. Right. So it put the Kushner family on the map. NBC, MSNBC, New York Times, Candace Bushnell. I didn't realize Candace Bushnell's Sex in the City. Right? The Manolo Blahnik infomercial, right? Sex in the City. that began as a column in the Observer, and you know where that went, right? Became a franchise, and all these different media figures, including Michael Ovitz, became a player. And I think Charlie Kushner was close to Michael Ovitz. Michael Ovitz was one of the co-founders of Creative Artists Agency, right? Before that was just like one or two, and then they kind of came in for the new Hollywood and created a new layer of brokering talent, right? It's all about getting yourself in the middle of scarce resources, putting packages together, agents, brokerage, right? That's the whole idea. So anyway, you get the point. You get a whole wide uh, menu of different movers and shakers in our contemporary political, economic, cultural, social firmament here. So that's exciting, man. That is so glamorous, man. Don't you feel bad about having your nose pressed against the window and watching it voyeuristically? Like, please let me have another bowl, sir. uh, I don't. That's not where I'm coming from. It's too late for me, man. I'm never going to have the trophy property on Park Avenue. I'm going to have a hot dog stand in Stockton, California. And I'm never going to own a national media property. It's just going to be this channel, Professor Hamamoto on TubeU, with only 8,000 subscribers. By the way, subscribe right now. That's an order. My name's Charlie Kushner and Donald Trump. Subscribe right now or you're fired. Okay. Number three. Here's another one. I was destined to just be a schlub. Okay. Number three is part of the Rubenstein formula. Date a high profile woman. Okay. I've dated some nice women, but none of them are high profile. They had nice profiles, but they were not high profiles. Okay. And who was that? Who would fit that description? Hey, yes, you're way ahead of me. Ivanka Trump. Ivanka Trump. And she was only 10 months younger than Jared baby, Jared Kushner. She's perfect, right? Because she was as grasping and wannabe, and she's more of a fame whore than he does. Not really a fame whore, he's a power monger, but she was a fame whore. And so it's a match made in heaven. Were it not for the fact that the Kushner family is Orthodox Jewish, and Ivanka Trump, I don't even know if she has a religion other than Mammon. You know, she's titularly what I don't know, Episcopalian maybe. I don't know. But so she took the lessons and she converted to Judaism. Good for her. And the family didn't like, you know, you heard the story. Charlie didn't like. I think he wanted it. He had to pretend not to like it, otherwise he would lose face. You know, at the temple. No, but you know, if you know the rabbi and if you donate some money to the temple, the rabbi will give you special dispensation. You know, you could go to the inauguration, you know, on Sabbath. Oh yeah, okay, well, I give you, you go without my blessings, right? So Charlie Kushner pretended not to like this marriage between a shiksa, Ivanka Trump, and Orthodox Jew. You know, Jared is Orthodox Jewish himself, so um, and that's also a red herring, okay, right? That's also one of those little implanted distractions to take us away from the fact that this power couple, Javanka, are making incredible deals behind the scene and also endangering the American Republic geopolitically and compromising our economy. And, you know, it's really even not even important to state the fact that they're making tons of money in the process. All right, you know that. Why would they else would they be doing it? Do they care about you and me? Do they care about them? No, come on. Yeah, I'm sure you're more sophisticated than that. So anyway, the fact is that, and this is a through line throughout this entire book, Kushner Incorporated, 666 Park Avenue, it was a trophy property, yes, but it was a white elephant. It wasn't making any money. In fact, they were hemorrhaging tenants. This is place is overpriced, square footage. No, we can't make a profit here if we stay. Right, the first ground floor is okay. Right, that's where a lot of the retail and the real high foot traffic business is done on the first floor, but it's a multi-story building skyscraper, right? So he's sweating bullets throughout the entire book here, Trump Incorporated. He had a $1.2 billion mortgage that was due. So Charlie, and by extension, Jared, had to hustle that whole time. He bought the property in order to get his son in access to the White House. But in order to pay for the building, they had to meet different people from different foreign nations, right? This is why it's such an important agenda item to keep Javanka out of the White House. Not to say that some other jerkwad is going to come and try to do the same thing, right? If nothing else, we're going to learn from Javanka what to look for, the telltale signs, and we're going to take the celebrity 3D glasses off and not be blinded by these people who have all these high profile sports, entertainment, media figures around them. And by the way, from an article I read in a recent Vanity Fair, these people are lepers now in DC and in New York. I'm talking about Javanka. No one will have any. They say, "Who are you?" How quickly we forget when they had some proximity to power, or in certain cases, exercising non-legitimate state-level governmental power that was never granted to them. But they won't have anything to do with them today. That's why this strategy, the Yojimbo strategy of using the information intel and to deploy against the enemy, that is our chief weapon against the people with access and their own self-assumed power and privilege. Okay, so they got the New York Observer, and then again, Jared Baby was the titular head. He was the editor. He'd come in every once in a while and boss people around. And whenever there was a story that wasn't flattering to Charlie Kushner, one of his friends, they'd say, kill that story, spike it. Or if they want to build someone else up in their own circle, that they get some lawyer or some writer to give them a boost there, right? That's what newspapers are for, after all, at least in their minds. And there's still some entertainment in news value. I'm not discounting that, but we know what the real agenda is, right? The Washington Post, Eugene Meyer, later to become the first inaugural, right? The very first head of the World Bank, right? So, and the author Kirby Summers has talked about the Chandler family in Los Angeles, right? So, and then the San Francisco Chronicle, all the major cities have these families that are involved, and that's why Rubenstein said, "Yeah, you got to buy yourself a paper or a magazine." Didn't John F. Kennedy Jr. buy or form George in order? That was a signal that, hey, I'm getting myself geared up for something bigger in my life. And of course, before that could happen, he was taken out, right? So let's talk a little bit about the high-profile woman, Ivanka Trump, right? You know her backstory. But you do not know the fact that the real shot caller here in this case was not Charlie Kushner, because I think he wanted her for the access and the exposure, right, to the Trump circles and the international circuit especially when after he became president. But the real brains of the operation is his wife, Cyril. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. I apologize, Mrs. Kushner, if I'm mispronouncing your name, but I see it as it's spelled Seryl, Cyril. I'm pronouncing it Kushner, and her maiden name is Stadtmeyer. And I mentioned that because one of Charlie's business partners was a Stadtmeyer. And what happened is that particular, I forgot his first name, but that particular, they had a falling out. Charlie and the other Stadtmeyer in-law, or maybe it was another family, I can't remember it, but one of the main people in one of the Kushner property corporations had a falling out, and Charlie Kushner wanted him out of the way. So he just wanted him physically removed. I don't know what that means, right? Use your imagination. He just wanted him up. You just give him his share of the company, whatever it is, make a settlement, sue me, see you in court, whatever it is. But it was his wife, that is Jared Baby's mama, Cheryl Kushner, according to Vicky Ward. So please don't sue me. Sue Vicky Ward. That's where I got. Besides, if you sue me, it's like squeezing blood out of a rock. You're not going to get anything. Right? That's one of the benefits of being poor. You can't get anything out of me. Um, anyway, I got it from Vicky Ward. See, I told you I like gossip just like you. Probably even more so. But anyway, it was Cyril Kushner, the mother of the Kushner, and she was also very much in charge of patrolling who is appropriate being married. She was even more observant than Charlie. Charlie would give lip service, and every time a rabbi or someone came in to the Kushner offices, he would put on his yarmulke and put all the different office stuff out of sight so he wouldn't offend anybody and pretend he was very devout. So he's a situational religious person, right? But Cyril Kushner was more serious about it when Stadtmeyer, probably German Jews, right? Probably a higher social class than Charlie, and probably her parents gave her grief for marrying this, Kushner, kind of below, their particular social class. But they were Orthodox. She was Orthodox as well. And I'm telling you this because it was Cyril Kushner that came up with the idea of setting up the brother-in-law with a prostitute. You know the story. The prostitute? You didn't know the story? Well, they wanted him out of the company, so they set the scenario is in here. But to make a long story short, they sent a paid professional prostitute to compromise him. He's only flesh and blood, Mr. Stottmeyer, and he succumbed to the lust of flesh. Unfortunately, it was all recorded on tape. So they played him the tape. He said, "Where do I sign my my resignation form? Just give me the payout. I'll leave. It's embarrassing. I'm humiliated. My wife's going to leave me. My children will never talk to me again." Right? It's called blackmail. So that came out as, again, it's from Vicky Ward's account, and these are all probably disgruntled employees of the Kushners and everybody else that they pissed on their rise up. Right. So be nice to everybody. Otherwise, people are going to talk to Vicky Ward, and she's going to slam you nice and hard. All right. So she came up with this, and there's a scene in the book, quite memorable, where Charlie invited some of his friends. They busted out the cognac and the cigars, and they sat around and they were watching his brother-in-law on tape being entrapped by a prostitute, and they had a good laugh about it. All right, that's business, ladies and gentlemen, in the big city. This is Sex in the City. It's not what Candace Bushnell, right? It's not about Manola Blahnik. It's about high finance and compromise. Okay, so I only have 15 minutes left, so let me just take a little bit of time here to give you a heads up on some very important shows that are coming up here, right? That's why I want you to subscribe. My ambition by the end of the year is to have 100,000 subscribers. I'm like Charlie Kushner, right? I need to build up some capital here, right? So subscribe. I'm not even at 10,000. Let's just say 10,000 for now. Right? By the end of the month, 10,000 subscriptions. So you'll get your notification that when Dr. Leonard Horowitz comes on the show, because yesterday I got a delivery in one of those red, white, and blue boxes. I said, I'm not really expecting anything other than the usual Amazon stuff, right? But it's like a overnight 2-day express box. I opened it up, and what do I find, ladies and gentlemen? I'm not even going to read the title because I don't want this channel to be taken down. Can you read it? This is Dr. Horowitz's brand new book, and he sent it to me in hardcover. What a nice guy. I only bought the paperback, but he sent me the hardcover. He didn't inscribe it because it was sent from another office. I think he's away from the office right now, but that's okay. I'll meet him in person someday. And boy, it is an incredible book. I'm going to spend the rest of the weekend going through this. It's the usual Dr. Leonard Horowitz level of of writing. It's over 500 pages. It's got all the citations. It's got all the endnotes, and well documented. I mean, he's not talking through his pant leg. He's okay. Let me read the title. It's called "COVID Coup: The Rise of the Fourth Reich." I'm seeing the monitor here, and it's hard to make out. So go to his website and buy this book. And I saw that the paperback version, I checked, is even available on Amazon. So you have to buy all the Kirby Summers books. Her new ebook has dropped, I'll tell you. Thank you, Kirby Summers, for being a guest this past Tuesday. That, again, you keep outdoing yourself on these incredible finds, these talks that you're doing. And so while you're there, buy Kirby Summers and get Dr. Horowitz's book. These are all eye openers. They're valuable resources, and you could even say they're collectible if you like. I don't know. I mean, I don't buy them for collectors' purposes, but you're uh, you're really performing a good act when you make these purchases. Anyway, so we're going to have him on. We haven't been, I haven't been in touch with him since last week. He's on the road, but I'll get him on the show. He's already said he'll do it. Okay, it gets better. Hang on. I have to take a little brief commercial break here, and you're going to enjoy this commercial, because what I do have scheduled for you, ladies and gentlemen, is a live stream interview this coming Tuesday, the 26th of April, 3 o'clock, same time as you're here right now, the people in the live stream. Thank you for being here. And this interview comes on the heels of the incredible interview that we had with Mr. Leo Zagami, right? This is like a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks, 2 weeks ago. And you know his series, The Confessions of an Illuminati, and we talked about his most recent book, the late, I think it's volume 7 he's on now, but I have them all, and talked about his escape from the authorities from Northern Europe to Southern Europe, from Italy into the United States. And in the course of talking to him, I told him, hey, I found this great book by Mrs. Zagami, Confessions of an Illuminati Princess, right? New edition. I think there's a previous edition, but this is the one I have. And he said, oh, there's a second edition. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm behind. So I went and got it immediately, and I read it last week. And so here's volume 2. So I contacted Mr. Leo Zagami, and I said, hey, I'd like to have Mrs. Zagami as a guest. So guess what, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you here, this is exclusive. Mrs. Christy Zagami is going to be a guest on this show this coming Tuesday, the 26th. So that's why I'm telling you, subscribe so you get the notification. And it's going to be, I'm sure, a rip snorter of a I don't call them interviews. These are more conversations between people, right? I just want to talk to writers that are interesting to me, and I read their work, and what they say intrigues me. That's what I go on, not who's big or who's been on the Ben Shapiro show or who Stu Peters is promoting. Right, he's promoting snake oil or snake venom or whatever it is. I just go with my own interest, and it seems to serve me well. So she's going to be here next week, so that's going to be incredible. And I suggested a couple of topics that are, and again, these are topics that you don't know anything about. So if you think you know everything just by reading the book, no, you're going to have to watch the show, because I don't want to repeat what she's already written or what she's already spoken about. I want to bring in some new dimensions of what she's written about. And I suggested that we talk, since she was in the fashion world and was a fashion model, and Leo Zagami, and I saw these incredible pictures of them while they're on the run and trying to relocate in Southern California. I'm not going to give any more specifics about that. I saw these pictures, and I just noticed how nicely attired they were always, wherever they were. Even when Leo Zagami was wearing like an InfoWars T-shirt, he had a nice jacket on, probably Italian made, by the way, right? I have T-shirts. I don't wear this outside the house, right? And as a grown man, I don't wear shorts out anymore. So the reason I'm telling you this is I said I would like Mrs. Zagami to address this Italian concept of sprezzatura, and that's the art, the culture of just sort of casual chic, just sort of casual aplomb. No matter what, the whole world can be collapsing around you. You may have the carabinieri after you, the police, the sheriffs, the Freemasons, but you're cool. It's a sprezzatura. You've got a jacket on. You're shaven and you're clean and you're not sweating, right? So I think we need this in America, not just to imitate the incredible personal style of the Italian people. And by the way, that's international. Americans are notoriously around the world, from people I know who are, when they're honest with me, saying, God, how come Americans look like they're hobos? They, not, I'm sorry to insult homeless people, but they look like really like they're really like from a third world country, wearing cheap Chinese made shirts and baggy pants, and so I said, yeah, you're right, and no wonder and I'm telling you this is why the ruling class hates us. That's why they think that we are life not worth living, because they see how ugly we are, and they see how despicable we are physically, and the way we have such a lack of self-respect. They said, let's put these people out of their misery, right? Let's just get them out of the genetic pool, because they've lost it totally. So I would like, I'm requesting that Mrs. Zagami and Leo Zagami give us the secrets of sprezzatura, right? It's not expensive, It's made in USA. It's 1940 pork pie style hat, right? This is what the jazz musicians wore back then. Lester Young, right? Famous song, Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. It's made in USA. Bowman Company. And then you got your Stetson. This is the open road, made in America, right? It's a 4X beaver. It's partially beaver, partially rabbit fur. John B. Stetson, made in USA. This is the hat that LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, wore when he was on the campaign stops. He would fly over on his helicopter, throw it out there to the crowd, and go, "Yeah, LBJ all the way." And then he'd make one of his underlings go and get that hat back because it's expensive and bring it back, right? And also, the reason I bought it is this is the hat that the sheriffs or the policemen at the Dallas police station were wearing. Right, all the detectives got to wear Stetsons, man, in Texas. Right, all the police, right? So this is the hat they was wearing when Lee Harvey Oswald was gut shot by Jack Rubenstein. So I said, I got to get me one of them open road Stetsons. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. And yeah, if I ever go to the Davos, this is a Bavarian hat. It's felt, very lightweight, it's packable. I'm going to go to Davos, Switzerland, because I found out that not only is it the hangout of people like Klaus Schwab of the Fourth Reich, but it was also a literary center. And this fits in with my interest in how literature articulates with the intelligence world. Robert Louis Stevenson broke his writer's block when he was visiting Davos, Switzerland. This is a German part of Switzerland. Treasure Island, that guy. And he later, he died in the Pacific Islands in Samoa, whatever. So we're going to learn about some of this stuff through fashion. Fashion is its own universe that is very important to understand and consider. I've talked about Anna Wintour, right? The fashion woman with Condé Nast, and the other British intelligence woman. What's her name? Her rival that does fashion as well. And it's not just about the Victoria's Secret's models, but it's a signal to the outside world and to the so-called self-appointed power elite that we are here to stay and we're not going nowhere, right? You can try to make us sweat all you want, but we're not going to buckle under. We have much more pride in ourselves. So yeah, just the other day I had a friend over and, asked her to trim my hair and, shave a little bit here and take off so it wouldn't look so wiry on the screen. And she cut the back of my hair so it squared off. So and I went out to eat last night, and, I feel better, and people are relating to you differently because you don't look like a hippie. And to memorialize it, she left me the hair that she trimmed off, and I can use it as a mustache. It looks like a dead mouse, but it's the hair she. So I'm trying to practice sprezzatura, and I think we should all practice sprezzatura. There's all these seemingly little gestures that we can make to take down the power structure, to resist it, right? And it's not going to happen if you sit there passively watching Stu the Auctioneer Peters or watching Owen Shrieger with his megaphone going down the street in Austin, Texas, and baiting people in the armored vehicle. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen if you're sitting there in fear and trembling, listen to Mike the Fear Ranger, right? Selling you storable food by, oh yeah, collapse is imminent. It was going to be cannibalism and within 3 weeks, right? You have nothing to fear, right? Because you are alive, you're sentient. We lived through a big scare that started 2.5 years ago. You and I are still here. We're not going nowhere, right? Only up, right? And Ivanka and Jared, baby, have got to move aside for us because that's our office, that's our government, right? And that's our world. You don't own it. You never will own it. Okay, let me finish. That's enough for the commercials for now. My editorial content, which I just needed to get out there. So we've got Mrs. Christie Zagami coming up, and we're going to get Dr. Juan. I'm looking forward to both those interviews, and there are going to be more and more and more. Oh yeah, I forgot to share with you the good news. This has been my lucky week. I learned on Monday that I won this music effects pedal from Full Tone. It's kind of similar to this. I have some of their products already. This is kind of like a wah-wah pedal. This is a chorus pedal. It's for making music, right? I won't go into the specifics of it, but it looks kind of like this. It's called wah-wah pedal. You've heard it in all the popular music, and I want it. It's free. It hasn't even had a price set on it yet. And Mike Fuller contacted me. And I'm also interested because he's since the 80s, I think maybe even the late 70s, has his own business, right? He's a proprietor rather of his business that employs people, that makes instruments that people use and bring beauty into the world. And I want to encourage that, just like I want to encourage sprezzatura. So hopefully I'll get Michael Fuller onto the show, but he's sending me this wah-wah pedal. It's called the Super Wah. Jimi Hendrix, that shaft, that chugga chugga boom chugga, that sort of sound. Instead of trying to duplicate the amount, I think I should play for you here. I'm trying to figure out the hard way here, and that's why I'm telling you this. I think him sending that pedal was sort of a sign to saying, stop talking about doing music and go ahead and do it. You need to do that. And I know this because I did that Robin Williams session as sort of an experiment to test the response of the audience and see if the audience was ready for it. Right. Most of you are way beyond the nanu nanu, Mork and Mindy. Oh, I like Dead Poets. You're beyond that. I was getting some really, really intelligent, prescient, and supportive comments about the Robin Williams, and you understood what I was doing. And I'm doing it because I'm tired of being grouped in with these other numbskulls who are supposedly media mavens, right? Someone told me that I need to check out the dark journalist, and I've checked him out, right? And I'm not taking anything away from him, but that's not what I do. I do original material here. So that Robin Williams bit last week was sort of a declaration of independence. I'm going in a direction that no one else is going to follow me, just like I did in my academic career. I did work, and I did art to the point where no one was going to be able to bite my material. They're never going to catch up with me. And I'm going to do the same thing here on TubeView, even though they have other ideas. I'm going to do it through the music. I'm going to subvert it through the music. And Michael Fuller, thank you very much for giving me your brainchild. He conceived it and he assembled it. And you know what? He's giving me serial number 2 that's coming off his production bench. You know who gets number 1, the first one off the bench? Michael Fuller himself gets number one. He's the owner, right? So he gets number one of the production run. I get number two. I'm lucky, ladies and gentlemen, right? And luck is contagious. So subscribe now. And it's going to rub off you, on you, not rub off you. It's going to rub onto you. It's contagious. Winning is contagious. Sprezzatura is contagious. Love is contagious. So anyway, I'm just giving you sort of a preview of coming attractions. It's going to be a good year. It's going to be a good life. We're going to take back the republic. We just got to get out of our losing attitude, our passive attitude. We got to stop looking at some of these ass clowns who are now jumping on the independent media bandwagon because it's cool, and the whole market is glutted with a bunch of wannabes and people who've been anointed as the wave of the future. I'm saying, just like Javanka, right? You are not the wave of the future. Ben Shapiro, Dan Bongino, Stu the auctioneer Peters, wasn't he like, these guys are all military, aren't they? Except for Ben Shapiro. He comes out of nowhere. He comes out of someone's ass. You know, he's like Jared Kushner, hasn't done anything, never will do anything. He's just been anointed by probably from somebody's daddy, you know, who's on the down low. I don't know, right? But these are not alternatives. So anyway, I'm going this direction because I'm tired of people putting on the comment that I need to check out so-and-so, right? Au contraire, they need to check out me. All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stop bragging on myself, and I would like to thank you for being steadfast in your support of my work here, because I'll see you at the top. All right. Thank you very much. Bye.